Made a copy of a world-famous painting that was more authentic than the real thing. But he was so poor he couldn't even afford to buy paint. To get out of poverty and get rich, Roy decided to make fake money. The first step was to design. Anyone who has seen my previous videos will know that if you scan a real bill, it will show a moire pattern. So, the backing of the banknotes had to be drawn by hand. Roy spent 3 days and nights at his desk drawing, finally putting the pieces together. He drew the front and back of a 500 rupee note. The second step is printing. This step was not Roy's strong point, but his best mate Jack was too good at it. Because his family owned a printing press, he even knew the paints better than the machine. First, he photocopied the backing of the note and repaired it bit by bit. Then he used a glass ball to wear it down. Then he applied a protective coating. And finally baking and cleaning. Now is the time to see the miracle. Once the printing is complete, it is ready for batch printing. But unfortunately, their machine can only print one color at a time. So they have to repeat the process 4 times. First printing, then cleaning and changing colors. Soon a single note is printed. The next step is cutting. Because of the professional cutting machine, this step is relatively easy. Once the cutting is complete, the banknotes are ready to be cut. And the next most important step is to add anti-counterfeiting features. The sequins bought from the stall are cut into thin strips and then thread them by hand into the banknote. This is how the security wire of the banknotes is solved. Finally, a number of different sizes is stamped on the top left and bottom right corners, and they had a perfect banknote. Roy stared at the note for a long time and felt that something was wrong. Yes, the bill was too new and too clean. Throw the bill in the tea, and then dried it out. Now it looks much better. Now there was one more step. They need to go out and test it. The two men arrive at a bustling marketplace. Jack pushes his way into the crowd with a fake bill and asked for a soda. But unfortunately, the owner took the money and rubbed it, and then gave it a few tugs. The money was found to be fake right away. The boss grabbed Jack as soon as he could. Luckily, Roy appeared at that moment. The two of them fled in a heap. They ran a few more blocks away. Finally, they got rid of him. Roy and Jack returned home puzzled. How on earth did the boss find out? But Roy didn't give up. This day he took 3 banknotes, asking Jack to guess which one was the fake. Jack took them and looked at them one by one. He spotted the counterfeit right away. Why? Because the paper wasn't right. Anyone who has ever touched real money can tell the difference. The two men then started looking everywhere for paper that was close to the bill. But they searched all over the streets, but there was nothing suitable. Then one day Roy overheard, if you put 2 pieces of paper together, the feel was almost the same. He immediately came up with a great idea. First, he bleached the paper. Then he printed the front and back of the note on 2 separate pieces of paper. Then he punched holes in the front side and threaded security wire. Finally, the 2 pieces of paper were glued together. This way the fake banknotes are made. This solves the problem of the feel. Then they made a pigment out of metallic paint. This solves the problem of discoloration of the banknotes. Finally, the counterfeit banknotes were soaked in tea and then dried. This time it was absolutely fine. The two men went back to the market, to the same shop. This time Roy went to buy a bottle of soft drink. After handing over the money, Roy was nervous as hell. But to his excitement, a few moments later he received the soda. So that meant they had made it. The two of them were so excited to get in the car, singing and dancing in the car. But they had only been happy for a few days. The 2 brothers were found by someone. Which one of you did this? These counterfeit notes look just like the real thing. Even a money detector couldn't tell the difference. Roy had the black boss take out 2 real bills. Then he mixed the fake money with the real money. He threatened that if he could find the counterfeit money, he would give the black boss $100,000 in cash. But if he couldn't pick it out, he would have to give him $100,000 in cash. He was stunned by Roy's confidence. He said, "Forget it, you find it." And Roy ended up looking for it himself. But he couldn't tell the difference himself. The boss took the 3 pieces of money and looked at them again and again. Finally believed in Roy's skill. At a price of 150 for 500, he ordered 20 million straight away. Roy agreed without thinking about it. On the way back, Jack questioned. They were almost exhausted just making 100,000. How could they do 20 million? But don't forget, Roy's family had a printing press. When they got home that night, Roy found out from his uncle the maximum print run of the printing press in a day. Then he took out a fake bill and told his uncle his plan. The uncle looked at it in the light for a long time. He couldn't tell if it was real or not. In order to completely dispel the uncle's worries, the next day Roy took his uncle with fake money to a restaurant for a meal. Everything was so smoothly executed. No one even noticed that he was using fake money. Now the uncle had no more worries. Roy and Jack are trying to speed things up. They ordered a large printing press and a dryer, but they soon realized an important problem. They didn't have the paper. Jack went to several paper mills, but the type of paper he wanted was restricted paper. They couldn't buy it without a government certificate. But that was no problem for Roy. He found a paper mill. There were only 3 security guards, so he got some friends together to rob the mill. But when they got here, they were dumbfounded. There was a football match tonight. Suddenly there's a whole bunch of security guards. Luckily Roy had enough men. The guards were finally brought under control. The truck drove straight into the warehouse. To avoid attracting attention, hauled in some paper of various types. With enough paper, Roy and the others started to print a lot. It took a few days to print them all. Arriving at the trading place, the owner inspected the goods and paid promptly. Their first transaction, and so it went off without a hitch. On the way out, The owner told Roy he would need more. Roy said he could do it any time. Then they saw that they had printed another large amount of counterfeit money, paying off the printer's debt. And with the money in hand, two poor men became rich. But when you walk by the river, you always get your shoes wet. One day Roy invited his girl to dinner. He used some fake bills. They were caught by the bank just as they were leaving. Translated with www.dpel.com/translator, free version.